Welcome back to Music Mindfulness. I'm Kalani. Today we're talking about living in the space, living in space. Music Mindfulness looks at the lessons that we can glean from the experience and the exploration of music. And one of the areas we explore and we experience in music is space. Sometimes in the form of silence, sometimes in the form of the anticipation of the next event or the next note. Sometimes space is implied with a static background, not unlike or like this. We often experience space in music as, the time that it takes to move from one event to another event. And we often associate music making or creating music with action, right? With the action of creating something, of doing. And just like in our lives, we often associate living with doing, right? With being active, being busy, getting stuff done. And while there's certainly nothing wrong with doing things, we need to do things, we need to get things done, we ought to be mindful that that's part of life. It's part of the life experience. But another important part of our life experience is what we often do this time of year, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, winter season. What we do is we reflect, we rest, we hibernate a little bit, we slow down, and we experience the stillness and the beauty of the stillness. Often in nature, the stillness of a frozen lake, of a windless day, the quiet of a snow-covered landscape. And we appreciate that. We can appreciate the balance of that with, say, spring or summer or fall, when things are more active and there's more observable changes and things are happening more rapidly. I'd also argue that the space in between the events is an opportunity to let the feeling of the living actions sink in, and so you can appreciate them more. You can really experience them, because if you move from action to action, event to event to event to event, and you're always playing notes, you're always filling in the space. And we can draw a lot of parallels between living in that way, where somebody's getting up in the morning and the first thing they do is just think about their to-do list, and they're just executing things all day long. They're just taskmasters. We can draw a parallel between that and the musician who is very busy and busy filling and playing lots of notes, playing fast or playing fancy, filling in the space, as if it's the filling that is the most important thing, or the doing, that there's this aversion to, as in conversation, the uncomfortable silence, because silence builds tension. in music in many cases. It's a device that we can use to actually build tension, but more importantly, it's the background, it's our canvas. It's what allows the musician to actually give the actions of notes and melodies and harmonies meaning, because all of that foreground activity is happening against a background that is pure and clean and open. So often, the novice or inexperienced musician will feel a compulsion to fill space, to always put something in a space. And I find, and you may agree, you may disagree, or this is an opportunity for you to explore music and your own life in a little different way. But I often find that the more mature musicians don't, at least they don't seem to feel, or they don't express that compulsion as much. What I get from a lot of more experienced master musicians is the feeling of value of the space and the maturity to resist the compulsion to always fill and to allow space so that the actions, the notes, the melodies that they do produce have more value and are more important because there's just less material. So the material that's there, and you could think about a speaker, like a very skilled poet or a writer. What is there, the importance and the value and the attention and the focus of what does get produced in terms of action is heightened and is magnified and intensified. And in my experience, playing and playing and playing, filling in the space can end up, it's ironic because it can end up actually reducing the interest in the music, the value of all those notes, because there's so many of them. And again, I would say there's a lot of parallels between a speaker or maybe somebody that maybe you've had experiences where you have been talking to somebody and they say the same thing over and over and over, maybe in slightly different ways. And after a while, as a listener, you maybe just kind of tune it out because it just becomes repetitive, there's no new meaning. There's nothing new there of value. It's the same kind of stuff over and over. And maybe as a listener of music, you may have experienced that as well, with music that's very repetitive and very full. And as humans as well, we know that we tend to register change more than we register just activity. So if we see activity or a pattern, and then we see that it's kind of ongoing and repetitious, we tend to move on from that and kind of put a check mark by that thing, and it gets shelved. It gets put to the side. It's not the center of our focus. We lose interest in it because there's really no need to pay attention to things that are just kind of the same and going and motoring along. And so, and then we tend to focus on, well, what is changing? What's new? What's novel? And so there's a lot of reasons we want to create space intentionally in our own lives, in our own actions, and not just to create something interesting and give ourselves a little break. There's rests in music, there's pauses in music for a reason, but also to absorb and experience what just happened. You can also think about the end of a piece of music. Now, in our culture, we have a tendency to want to applaud, right? Or say, yay, or, clap, say, hooray, to a performance. But often the impulse is to just sit and in stillness and silence and honor the music that just happened or the event that just happened, in my experience, there's a feeling of not wanting to break that silence that comes right after an event. And so in much the same way that we have that silence, that kind of reverence for honoring what just was created so we can appreciate it and also absorb it, just let it sink in. In much the same way, we have the season of winter that is there as kind of the silence after the year of music making, if you will, so that we can integrate, we can reflect, we can absorb, and we can appreciate the spring, the summer, and the fall, whatever happened in those times. Let's just touch on the idea as well of the empty bowl as the only useful bowl. So, you know, if we fill the bowl, if we put something inside the bowl, it's really not as useful. If we leave the bowl open, we can not only put things into the bowl, but we can get things back out of the bowl. We can use it as a temporary place for creation, for holding things, for mixing things, for creating things. So I like that saying a lot. The only useful bowl is an empty bowl, because if you fill a cup actually, the only useful cup is an empty cup or a bowl. Because obviously if you fill a cup, now it's not a cup anymore, right? You can't put anything in, it's full. So my question for you to just ask yourself is, what can you empty out? Maybe it's thoughts or beliefs. It might be physical things, tangible things. What can you get rid of to become that empty cup so that you can welcome new ideas, welcome new things, or just appreciate the space, the emptiness? What is the opposite of, you know, the emptier is the hoarder. And I think we all struggle with a little bit of both of those aspects of wanting, you know, to fill, wanting to have, wanting to own, wanting to control, and feeling the need for freedom and wanting to divulge and get rid of or divest, to empty, to clear away. And I think music is a nice space and a wonderful opportunity and experience to experiment with those ideas and to see what happens and to learn some lessons about not just music, but mindfulness as well. And that's what this offering is all about. What can we learn from the music experience to inform our mindfulness experience and our aesthetic experience? Because life is an aesthetic experience. Life is an artful, music is a humanity, but humans are having an aesthetic experience. That's what life is. It's an aesthetic. Oh, that's tough. It's an aesthetic experience. Not so much analytical, even though we do like to go there, and we love our minds. We love solving puzzles and things. But I would argue that that's not the end goal. The end goal is really art and having an artful, aesthetic life experience that's enjoyable and satisfying. The problem solving, the analytical stuff is there to help us get to that other goal of having that heightened aesthetic experience. There's my dog friend again. So I'm going to play a little bit more, and just to play with this idea of creating a feeling and a sensation of spaciousness, as much as I can with the barking dog in the background. And I'd like to invite you to do that as well. And you can leave your comments below if you have ideas or things that have worked for you. And I'll see you in the next installment of Music Mindfulness. And if you'd like to learn more about these instruments, you can visit us at patreon.com. I'll make some videos over there for patrons and talk about the different instruments and how I make the music. All right. Well, I want to thank you all for joining today, and I hope that you find some time to experience stillness in your environment, but also in your inner world, your intra experience, and just enjoy the beauty of stillness and silence. Eckhart Tolle likes to talk about the beingness, experiencing the spaces between the thoughts, I think is what he tends to say. And so you can add that idea to everything else I've talked about here. All right, my friends, I'll see you next time.